everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Content Karate. Again, we're a marketing show. We interview amazing people who are taking their content, repurposing it specifically for lead gen, traffic, awesome ROI for their business. And today I am thrilled to be sitting with Aaron Agius. He is the co-founder and CEO of Louder.Online. Now they are international, so they have agencies in the USA, Australia, Asia, and they're working with amazing brands like Salesforce, Coca-Cola, Intel, it goes on, and they're essentially showing them how to technically optimize their sites, perform influencer outreach, and link acquisition to produce and distribute content that gives significant lead gen and ROI. So Aaron, we're thrilled to be with you today. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Thank you for having me. That was a mouthful.
Yes. Well, you're impressive. We could go on and on. So how about you just kind of start by telling us in your own words what your company is. Obviously we know who you serve, but dive in your own words.
Yeah, sure. We're an agency that we just help businesses grow, and we typically help medium to enterprise clients globally. So it's anything acquisition and conversion focused, whether it's SEO and content marketing, paid ads, lead generation, the whole lot, and actually care that traffic does something once it hits the site as well. So making sure that traffic converts and doing full conversion optimization campaigns. We're a fully distributed team and have distributed clients around the world as well. So it works out well time zone wise.
That's awesome. So you're doing content, obviously that's really, really metric based, which is awesome. And I'm really excited to dive into a lot of that during this episode and interviews. So all of that content that you're creating, whether it's for, the SEO, the landing page, the campaigns that you guys are doing, like what are a few of your top content marketing goals, either for your own brand or your clients, like once you start to bring on a new brand? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so the clients ones, it's such a wide and varied question. Sometimes people want a wide and varied answer, not question, but sometimes people come to us simply for, these 3 URLs, we need more attention, more organic traffic purely on it. And we're like, well, what about if it converts or not? No, my KPI is if I get more organic traffic on it. Okay, no problem. Some people care about the whole site. Some people care about growing the business. And any of those goals have to tie back into the purpose of the content. That one's hard to nail down. In terms of our own content, that's an easier one to answer. So most of our business comes through eating our own dog food. So through doing SEO and content marketing for ourselves, and bringing in leads that way, inbound leads. Now, the hard bit about it is that, we serve medium to enterprise clients, and one of the hardest things that I've found over the years is trying to run any kind of ad campaign that drove direct leads for medium to enterprise clients. It's typically not how they find an agency. Then they're not going to click on an ad on Facebook and sign over $1 million deal. It's just not what happens, right? So they need to feel like they've found you on LinkedIn, they read about you in Forbes, they've been referred through friends and all kinds of things, or they've seen you everywhere. And so you have to have a more strategic approach there. And that kind of thing works really well with inbound, where they have read about you in Forbes, seen your website, read something else, seen an interview with you. Then they come and reach out. Now, the hard thing is that is hard to scale in a way that is measurable, like paid ads, but is super effective because they're pre-educated. They come to you knowing what you are. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to try and sell as much. You're able to just do the thing that they're asking for, which is great. So yeah, our purpose of content is that we've been doing this like content for 12 years, writing in all these publications, 30, 40 posts a month on different websites and blogs and everything else for a really long time. And we've wanted to find a way to try and amplify that to get that in front of more people than it is organically. So that's kind of where our heads are at the moment with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So a lot of that organic effort. I'm excited to ask you kind of too, and I know you said it is difficult because this is something we run into our Purpose House as well. being able to track some type of like metric with the organic efforts of like written publications, content, stuff like that. Do you guys have a system for that with your clients or yourselves? Because I know like with Forbes, like you said, that's kind of almost like a soft referral. If someone discovers you from Forbes, they already trust Forbes, they're learning about you there, being able to track then how that's being converted into traffic or leads. Do you guys have a system in place for that, or any tips, strategies on that?
Nope,
Nope.
we don't. I
That's
wish I
a
did
great
too.
question, I know.
Yeah. No, because it's also about attribution, right? They may have come from Forbes, but then they've hit your site. They've been retargeted 3 or 4 times in ads, and so it's the multi-touch approach and knowing what it was that tipped them over the edge and how you attribute it. Obviously, you want to attribute it to the whole journey and put different weightings on different parts of it, but it's a super complicated thing to do, and
Yeah,
it's not something that we've been able to nail down. But that's for ourselves, right? When we're doing it for clients as well, that that's different in that half the time the clients. So there's different ways of measuring success and KPIs on a piece of content. Is it consumed? Is it getting leads? Is it getting shares? Is it getting links? When we create a piece of content, we know the purpose behind why we are creating it, and the client knows. So
yeah,
we're able to measure that pretty quickly. I am not that worried for ourselves. Like we're doing Forbes, Content Marketing Institute, HubSpot, all these places. Um,
amazing brands.
I don't mind because they got way more traffic than we're ever going to have on our website, and I'm happy with that. It's not
Absolutely.
our goal. And I know we're getting the awareness, the brand growth. I just can't measure it to a direct ROI specifically, and I'm okay with that. I know it works because it's been happening for 12 years.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So, kind of speaking of that, whether you want to talk about this for your own brand or for a client's brand, what's an example of like one piece of content that you guys have created, published anywhere that's really outperformed others that you can think of?
Yeah, look, it was a few years ago now that we did this, a couple of these big pieces. So we did a 30 or 40,000 word guide with Neil
Wow.
Patel on how to build your blog audience, and there was another one on how to build your personal brand. And we wrote those and hosted them on Neil's site, or co-wrote those and put them on QuickSprout, and then I think they moved to neilpatel.com. Those killed it, right? We leveraged his existing traffic and domain
Right.
authority, and we had both of those pieces ranking for personal branding and other like head terms, and so that did a lot for us in terms of referral traffic and inquiries and all sorts.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like PR features like those are always great lead sources for any type of business. I think PR for like Repurpose House is like our second biggest lead source behind like referrals and organic outreaching and stuff. So that's amazing. And Neil is a huge, huge brand. So that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
Uh,
he's a good guy.
yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So, however much you would want to divulge, because I just am so fascinated. I love PR. I'm so fascinated in how you guys are able to, secure all of these features, which with some of the biggest authorities in the marketing industry, like anyone listening is going to recognize these names that we're talking about. What like strategies or processes have you guys built or do you think work really well to make that happen?
Yeah, for us, it was the idea of like trading up the chain, so to speak. I didn't coin that term, but the whole idea was um, not thinking that you can go ahead and write for these publications on day one, and knowing that you needed to start reaching out to sites that were a bit above your own site. So the process that we typically follow and recommend to people is get a few really good pieces of content on your own website, 4 or 5 blog posts that absolutely kill it, took a lot of time, energy, and effort or resource. Put them there, and then identify some sites that you'd like to post on that are in your industry. Reach out to them, use what you've got there as evidence, and say, look, I'd love to contribute to yours. Then use that to leverage into the next level, and so on and so forth. Um, that's how we did it initially. Plus, being able to, just like in life, being able to network and communicate with people and build relationships, we were able to identify who different editors were at publications, get
Yeah.
introduced to different people, and because we had that um, evidence that we were able to create great content all the way along, it was an easy win to be able to start contributing for those publications. And then we just didn't stop. And we just kept that engine going as a cost for the business.
That's great.
That was how we did that, and it worked. And we keep recommending it to people. Everyone wants a shortcut, right? I just want to start writing for Forbes straight away or Entrepreneur magazine, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So when it comes to like finding those contacts, that's like when you're golden, right? When you have that really great connection with the editor, the decision makers for the content on that team, that's like game changer. So just quick little tidbit for anyone listening, but I would love to know your input too, like how you find those contacts. Like, let's say someone did want to write for, Neil Patel's team. Because we use certain tools, but I'd love to hear, you guys are the masters at this. Like if you use any certain tools of finding the right contacts to like send these pitches to you.
Yeah, we don't overcomplicate it. So firstly, I don't think Neil lets anyone publish on his site. That's a tough one to ever make happen. We've been friends for 8 years or so now. That's not something I wouldn't recommend anyone reach out to try and get content on his site.
Okay, noted. You got
it. But the others, all the editorial publications that we've been mentioning, the way that we got those details, it wasn't the spray and pray approach. It's not about hitting up so many publications and using automated tools and that kind of thing. Not when you're at that kind of level of site. It's about, we just used LinkedIn, and we found out who the editors were. We read the site, read the sections of the site, knew who guys that were similar to us who were publishing on those sites. We saw who their editors were or what sections of the site they were on, did our research, jumped on LinkedIn, got a few different names, and didn't just throw a cold email pitch, like asked for someone who knew them to introduce us, or found a phone number and actually called them. We did stuff that wasn't just, I'm going to use Pitchbox and hit up 5,000 people at once.
Right. That's amazing. So there you go, guys. The power of LinkedIn connections and really nurturing those relationships. That's great. So then once you guys have those awesome written, those pieces of content for your brand, for your client's brand, what does the distribution process look like for you guys to make sure that gets seen, like you're saying, to build a lot of that inbound?
Yeah. This is where you guys come in, and that's because, and this has only been, I don't know, last year or so. Prior to that, we've done an absolutely terrible job of distributing the content. We let them be distributed. We knew the content would rank because of the high authority domain, so there'd be referral traffic. We knew that they'd be distributing it through their own audiences and that kind of thing. But we had no plan in place that was to distribute the content afterwards, just because we were focused on client work. It wasn't something we did, and it was working. But like I said, we spent so much time trying to nail the paid ad piece to bring in these leads and so much money that when we stopped and said, well, most of our leads are coming in through inbound, how about we just try and change the approach to amplify the success rather than try and bring in something new and different? And that was when we started to work out, think about how can we put a process in place that gets more eyeballs on that content that already exists. And so that was where we knew we had to have different versions of images and videos and different platforms seeing the content. And we wanted to take original pieces of content, repurpose it, which is what you guys do, and get it in as many of our platforms, channels, groups, and everything else as possible. We knew that there was a way to be able to, you could easily publish to many places like social platforms using different tools. That wasn't in question for us. It was about how could we create a process that did it all, as much of it automatically in terms of image resizing and video cutting and intros and outros and all that important stuff, and then add that into the distribution afterwards. And so we built a great system that connects in with you guys, is built on Slack. It uses different services and one person managing it, and uploads to podcasts and strips out audio and text and does so much different stuff. And that took a while to implement, but I love that we did it, because finally But we were doing the hard bit in my mind, which is writing that much content on the right places for so long.
Creating
and then we got to this point where like there's thousands of pieces of content out there that we've written that are online, and we've done nothing to distribute. And it just, if that's bringing in a big portion of our leads, why not just amplify that? And so now, even if we're not producing a huge volume, we have such a backlog of stuff that we can just throw into this machine, and it works and is distributed everywhere. And I love that is very hands off for me.
There you go. That's awesome. I love that. So in terms of then like how that's performing, have you guys noticed anything that's like overachieving on social that's working really, really well for you guys once that distribution is starting to happen?
It's hard to say. We've gone through a change in times sort of with business at the moment.
Yeah.
Not our own business, but going through COVID and everything else. So as that's going down and our stuff's going up, our business has not been impacted negatively in any way. In fact, we've grown different arms of the business, but I don't know how much of that is attributed to this kind of distribution and how much is just because we were sheltered from it in another way. I'm not sure, but I do know that the indirect ROI has gone up. And what I mean by that is not necessarily financial stuff, people coming through and saying you have to work on our site, which does happen, but definitely hey, I need to interview you. I want you on this expert roundup. Can we link to this? Can you write a piece for our site? All of those things have gone up significantly.
Oh, that's
and those are lead indicators for us. So I'm quite happy with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I kind of want to take some time to touch on too, because I find it so interesting. Like your team is just like a rock star team of these incredible writers, right? And they all have their SEO hats and they're all putting out so much amazing content. So what are some, if you guys have had any, like what's one of the biggest hurdles that you've kind of overcome in building a team of employees that have this type of skill set that are so efficient and systemized to be able to create all of this? So you guys do a ton of content.
A lot of it comes down to a strong strategy to begin with. The thing that kills me is, and always has, is people doing content for the sake of content. They think that they're supposed to be creating a whole lot of stuff, and so they write it about their business or about their product or service and forget the whole what's in it for them in terms of the audience side of things. And so they think they're doing content marketing. They've thrown 300 to 500 words on a page and they're sitting there wondering where their results are. And we've invested so much. Well, no, you haven't. You've done junk, right? And the way to fix that comes back to the content strategy in the first place. So we spend a lot of time, energy, and effort building out a strategy piece for the way that we operate, but is a foundation of how our clients operate as well. And that covers everything from tone and style and voice, content length and structure, aligning with business objectives, competitive analysis. There's a whole suite of idea generation tools, editorial planning, scheduling. So we're able to build out this whole thing, even user journeys and buyer personas, and it's all built into a strategy to begin with, which means that it doesn't matter how terrible the writer is, if they align with these instructions, they should be producing a great piece of content. And so we have that, and we have great writers, and it works really well.
Do you have any like tools that your team uses that you would suggest other people who are wanting to get more savvy themselves with this process, like in the creation process, and making sure that what they're going to be writing and building will perform as best as it can?
The tools we use are custom, but I mean, there's stuff that you can do on in Google Sheets. It's simply a new sheet for every area, the competitive analysis, the user journeys, and the buyer personas, and just create a tab and note down the instructions that need to happen for each business that need to go in there. I guess that's for the full strategy piece, but probably the most interesting bit of that is the idea generation side. Everyone wants to write about their product or service, and they forget that what are the goals of most of these pieces of content? It's actually to be distributed socially and linked to naturally through people's websites, therefore helps with referral traffic, with SEO, all the rest of it. If people are doing that, in order to get that, you need to be talking about your industry, not your product or service. You need to be educating or entertaining. And so if you're doing that in your piece of content, you're going to win. And so the idea generation piece is, well, you've got keyword research, that's great, but that's about keywords. Why don't we just look at the questions people are asking in the industry and the problems they're having, simply answer questions and solve problems, and you'll always have a hungry audience behind the content you're creating. And so there are different tools out there that scrape question and answer sites like Quora, Yahoo Answers, and loads of other places, Reddit. You spend some time doing the research there, look at the questions being asked repeatedly, answer those questions better than anyone else is on the internet, you have a winning piece.
I love that. That's amazing. So when you guys start to sign on new clients, you help them with that entire part, right?
We do we can do done with you, done for you, whatever it is, but we do the whole strategy piece, the idea generation piece. We typically get the content approved or declined because we don't know, maybe they have a conflict with this idea or whatever it is. They approve it. We can actually do the full writing of it and upload it in draft on their blog if we're allowed access, and they just publish it at a predefined schedule. Or they may want to be involved at an earlier piece and give feedback, and we do a couple of iterations. We're flexible.
That's amazing. I love that. Love the hands-off approach. That's like the best case scenario. That's great.
Yeah.
So before we kind of wrap up, like, are there any last thoughts that you want to bring up? Like any big content revelations, SEO stuff that you want to leave us with, PR? There's so many different cool facets of what you guys are doing. I want to kind of just open the floor and see if there's anything that you would love to kind of just blow people's mind with as we wrap up.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
No, I think the thing I wanted to say was more that you can focus on tactics and strategies and all this kind of stuff, but the easiest thing to do is realize that if you're providing value to people in content and people are going to consume that, you're going to actually get the results off the back of it that everyone's trying to get. Like you want to create a piece because you want to attract a load of links to it. Well, create a valuable piece. You want social shares, well, create something that's shareable socially. Like impact people positively, create proper value in that content, and the rest will go, it will work for itself, right? It just comes. If people are thinking too short term in terms of those goals, so spend a lot more time actually creating something of value and different to how other people are doing it, and watch what happens.
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Aaron. I love that. So where would you like people to be able to go to learn more about Louder.Online, everything that you guys have going on? Where can they go?
Yeah, look, Louder.Online. And if I'm doing my job, then search for my name and you should find me in a bunch of different places. So it's easy to reach out to me, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you'd like. But like I said, if I'm doing my job, there should be quite a few entrance points. So.
There you go. Awesome. So thanks everybody for listening in. This was such a value-packed episode, Aaron. So thank you so much. And for everyone listening, watching, if you guys got awesome value out of this too, please be sure to share with all of your friends, your team members, and be sure to go to contentkarate.com where you can listen, watch on all of your favorite platforms. So Aaron, thanks so much again. This was such a pleasure, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks for having me.